also recommend going into the family mart or whatever convenience store at the airport and pick up waters, because I heard that you can take water and with you. Hi travellers, I'm Anne's daughter Lalika. Following are some tips and strategies that you can use to enhance your Shanghai Disney experience. I hope you find them useful, and if you do, just give this video a thumbs up. I talk about everything from food queuing and different strategies that you can use to maximize your time. So I went to Shanghai Disneyland, which I'm so excited that I got the opportunity. I went in early June. It's just under a year old. Really pick the day that you choose, day or days that you choose to go. There's either a 1 day or a 2-day ticket that you can currently get. I did it in 1 day, and I will say, if you're organized, you can totally get through in 1 day, but you are spending the entire day. Try and go on a weekday. It was actually the first day of the Gaokao exams, so it meant that there were no 12th graders because they're all in the Gaokao exam, and I really didn't see any students that were above maybe 10 years old. So a lot of mothers, fathers, and their younger preschoolers or early elementary school, primary school kids, and sometimes grandma and granddad too. I did see a few foreigners. Check on the Shanghai Disney website what the opening hours are, and I would recommend getting there at least half an hour before the scheduled opening time, because I had a hell of a time getting in the actual gate, even, oh gosh. So I flew in that morning, so I knew I wasn't going to arrive until after the park had opened. I went to the information desk at the airport and got them to write down on a bit of paper so I could show the taxi driver, take me to Disneyland, and that worked a charm. And on the way there cost me 105 RMB. It was at 10 o'clock in the morning. I want to say it was maybe like a 20-minute ride, and this guy drove like the clappers. I don't know how he knew that I just was so keen to get to Disneyland, and he had to drive so fast. I recommend pre-purchasing the ticket, because otherwise you have to join the ticket counter, which is over to the left, as opposed to being able to just go straight through the turnstiles to the entrance. Actually, firstly there's the security line. I just use the Shanghai Disney website to purchase my tickets. It's the cheapest park to get into. It's 370 RMB for an off-peak day, which is when I went. All the prices are on the Shanghai website. You can either get it emailed to you, the confirmation number, or you can get it in a text message. I chose the text message way, and it provided me absolutely no problem. Make sure you bring your passport with you on the day. Use it to verify that A, it's you and anybody else that's in your party that's booked that's under the same booking. I just went by myself because it was a work day and there's nobody else available to go with. And that's also another tip that I would recommend, is it's totally fine to go by yourself. There are single rider lines, which I'll get into a little bit later. Also take into the park with you water and any snacks or anything. Chinese people seem to take their whole lunch there, so that's not a bother at all. Various drink fountain stations throughout the park, usually next to the toilets, where you can refill your bottle. If you haven't seen my other video on what the day was like for me, I'll put that in the link above so that you can watch that as well. Yes, it is in China, so all the attractions are in Chinese. But I must say it really didn't take away from the magic that is Disney. They've done a crackerjack job of still being inclusive, I found. On some of the rides before you go in, for example in Tron, as they're giving you the lowdown of what's going to happen, there is subtitles in English across the bottom. Because it's China, some things are culturally specific and done a little bit differently than how we would expect. Because summertime is upon us, look out for sun umbrellas, particularly the little prongy things on the end. I got clocked in the head so many times. It's very simple. I just, tapped them on the shoulder and was like, excuse me, and, just miming. After I
let them become aware of it, then it was no issue. Be aware that there will be that not everybody chooses to use the bathroom. You might see kids peeing on the side of wherever you're queuing up. Part of living in China, when there's a queue, people will ultimately push. Could have been so much worse, and maybe it was because I picked a day where it was just younger kids and their parents. I'd suggest if there's 2 or 3 of you to stand next to each other and not have any spaces that would enable someone to squish through. That's not a foolproof plan either, because they will go. As a single person, I tended to have a stance. I would also have my arm against the railing, because then it means somebody has to duck under. Greater chance of being caught out. That did happen though, and especially kids going under. But again, just like I did with the umbrellas, I said to them, excuse me, you're behind, and that worked. One little girl, she was very surprised that I called her out on it, but I'm sorry, you were behind me and now you're trying to get in front of me. I did have trouble though with the grandmas and granddads, because they're very in the nicest possible way. They are just not. And even when, like I did, I tapped one grandma who was with her granddaughter, presumably, and she was just like, you didn't move fast enough. And it's like, fine, I'm not taking on grandma today. Even with the language barrier, they're very aware that they have just pushed in front. It may be different with different age groups. A single rider line as often as you can, even if you're in a party of multiple people. At the entrance to the ride, the single rider lines are generally lower, but they're still very much the same, and maybe that is to discourage people from doing the single rider line. I'm not sure, because I found the estimates to be absolutely grossly overestimated. And maybe it was a particular day that I went. The cast members were not that good at managing the single rider line, both for Tron and Pirates of the Caribbean. They left the single rider lines in place for much longer than they needed to before we could move on to the next section. And the next section is, here's the ride. So you'll see in my other video of me on the day, for example, in the Pirates ride, there were 2 spare seats next to me, and there was 1 in the front row. So that's what I mean by the cast members just miscalculating the use of the single rider line. From my experience, there wouldn't have even been a line at all if they'd just been counting. And the same with Tron, they kept us outside the rider area in another waiting space for what seemed like an exceptionally long amount of time. And then when we did get let through, the queue just disappeared, which then suggests that there's just a miscommunication between those on the floor and those holding us back. And it is a shame, because it means that I could have gone on a lot more, or gone on them more often. And soaring over the horizon is very popular. When I arrived, there was I think it was a little over 2 hour wait then, and that's why having the app is so handy, because you can just refresh it during the day and see which are the shorter queues. I will say there's not too many rides in Shanghai Disney, which is an advantage and a disadvantage, because it means you can get around all of them in one day. There's sort of one big ride per land. So Tron is in Tomorrowland, Pirates is in Adventure Island. There's a downside as well to not having enough rides, is that then every ride has got a heavy queue in it. I also recommend for the parade, I sat down, because that's what I've always done at Disney parks during the parade. I sit down, but Chinese people aren't familiar with it. Yeah, get there on time. And then with the fireworks, actually any of the shows, you really do need to be there quite early. It says doors closed 10 minutes before. Strategy for getting through all the rides, it is going to get those fast passes. Absolutely is the way to do it, especially for the soaring ride. Plenty of rapids rides in my life, but that's a very popular one as well. The wait time for that was, I think, well over 2 hours, if not 3 hours. And I wonder If somebody that has been can put in the comments below, is it worth going to join soaring as soon as you get into the park, or is it better to veer left because everybody's going to soaring, which is right, and you go to Tron, Pirates, Peter Pan and knock off those and then join the longer queue? Yeah, there's got to be a way. Favorites was the Star Wars exhibit. It's just a walkthrough, and I think it's because there were no people there, which was great. No queue to meet Kylo Ren, no queue to meet Darth Vader. Going to meet the princesses, however, totally the opposite, a queuing situation to meet the princesses. But the downside is it's not efficient. It's not one kid after the next at all. It is stop, pose, have a little chat. It's like you're going to see Santa, and so it means that the princesses change out. If you were loving Rapunzel, but then by the time you get to the front of the princesses queue, because it's 2-hour wait, she's not going to be there. For food, I went out to Disneytown because I was stopping at all the little snack bars just as I was walking around, and they're very much for Chinese people. The snack prices, they weren't too terrible. Yes, they're a little bit more because it's a Disney park, but I also found that the snacks weren't exactly ones that I wanted to be eating. I don't particularly want to eat a cucumber. I did have an ice cream, which I think was 40 RMB. I was hanging out for a churro, and it took me, it's in Fantasyland, that's where I finally found it. Be aware that they only sell Pepsi, and water is the options to buy. And it's 15 RMB for the Pepsis and 10 RMB for the water. I went to go to the Cheesecake Factory so I could have some delicious food. Oh my goodness, so good. Chinese people usually have lunch between 12 and 1, so I'd recommend either having an early lunch or a later lunch to try and avoid some of the places not having anywhere to sit. Make sure you wear your most comfortable shoes. It is the biggest Disney park in the world at the moment, and there's a lot of empty spaces in between the worlds where I guess they're putting future attractions, but at the moment it means there's a lot of walking. And in the afternoon, as people start to wilt, A, from the heat, and B, from having to walk so much, there's just people sort of strewn everywhere, and especially within the castle. So that could be a strategy, is to go in wintertime. Yes, it will be cold, but maybe there'll be less people because they don't want to be out in the cold all day. But all in all, it's a great day, but I think it takes a little bit of planning, definitely mental preparation for that queue at the beginning. Fine, security, but it's the queue after that. That was the longest line of the day for me, was to get into the park. I think it was an hour and a half all up, and it's because it's not organized. Like, it's just everyone for themselves. And unfortunately, still a year down the track, I guess I was just really disappointed with that, because they could have different turnstiles for the different styles of ticket. For example, those that have gone to the ticket window first to then pick up their ticket card, they still have to then join this ginormous queue with everybody else. So even once they've got it, there's still another queue, which I think could totally be avoided by just having a ticket queue if you already had one in hand. Myself, because I had the text message, that meant that somebody had to, and unfortunately it's once you get to the front of the turnstile, is that then they have to type in my passport number, yep, check that I'm there, and then confirm, get the right confirmation number. This all takes time. It's not simply a hand over the passport and it's done. And even once the ticket's printed out, then they still have to scan the ticket. So even for just one person, that's a lot. Unfortunately, I joined their queue, which, unbeknownst to me, had a ginormous group, and I want to say at least 50 people, because there were parents, there were kids, and I don't want to overestimate, but there had to be at least 50 in that bunch. So they were all strewn out across the queue, and to process every single one of them was a nightmare. And I'm sorry, they weren't the only group in those queues. So why there's not a group queue for a group booking is baffling. I mean, it was fine once I got through. Suddenly our queue really moved forward because they all went, but to process them, people were getting really irritated. To check each of their Chinese IDs. Oh my goodness. So if you can get there before it opens, get through security and get through the turnstile, you've got the whole day then, which I think would be the absolute ultimate. The fireworks display was lovely, right, in terms of leaving at the end of the night. So this one is actually for the way home because I knew I was going to get a cab too, and it says take me to Terminal 1 please, because my flight's going. But most of them seem to be heading towards either the car park or public transport. I'm not sure because I didn't take the metro, but for time, flying into Pudong Airport is the closest airport. Go from there. On the way back to the airport, it costs 70 RMB for my taxi. I left just after the fireworks finished and walked straight to the taxi, and really there wasn't a wait. Here are all my tips and strategies for how you can plan out your day or when you go to Shanghai Disneyland. If you have any questions about how you complete your day at Shanghai Disney, please leave them in the comments below, and please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. It's so neat to experience another park, and while it's made for Chinese people, we as foreigners can still enjoy it.